What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, the host. We are going to be talking about more DC Studios drama, some stuff. We're going to be talking about Ezra Miller possibly being kept on as the Flash. I'm assuming if the Flash movie is successful. And Black Adam, the stuff about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson trying to take control over DC. And you know we cannot be here on Friday and talk about DC movies and Ezra Miller and The Rock and Zaslav in particular without bringing our buddy Rex in for the Rex and Robbie show. What is up, my man?
You know what? Thank God for DC. Otherwise, we'd run out of stuff to talk about on Fridays, man. I mean, when you sent me the article, I was going to forward it to you, but my day yesterday got a little out of control. So I forgot to send it. But when I saw it this morning, I was like, all right, cool. You read the same thing. Because I was going to go, well, they keep adding fodder for us, so we might as well talk about it. GTT Comic and John Spilios, our buddy, Missing Link. I do want to call out cardstock variant. I think that is probably one of the best statements I've ever seen. You know, we can all learn what we can learn from this is to lessen general obsession with celebrity culture and glorification. And he's absolutely 110% right. But there's so much money in it. You know, it's pushed on us every single day. It's almost impossible to avoid.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it was an interesting article. So it was a Variety article kind of detailing all the stuff going on with The Rock and his bid for power over DC. And I guess we can start there. And what it basically said was that he went over executives' heads directly to Zaslav to pitch this new DC, this new DC era with the Black Adam and the Superman fight being the central thing. He wanted to build up over a series of movies the Black Adam and Superman conflict and basically not say that he wanted to be in control of DC Studios, but basically have a big say in the direction of what the overall narrative of DC movies was going to be, right? And he wanted to be the central figure piece. And that seems weird because Black Adam doesn't seem to be that kind of character, but 10, 15 years ago, Iron Man didn't seem to be a central figurehead for a cinematic universe based out of Marvel. So
right,
there's that. But then there's other things. Obviously, he was in the League of DC Super Pets, right? Where the animated film, apparently he wrestled, no pun intended. He was requesting hardcore a producer credit on that, even though that was a film in development before he even became attached to it. And then at the Black Adam premiere, of course, he's got a tequila bar with his brand of tequila all over the place. Apparently, it just kept getting too much and was pissing people off at DC. What do you think about this stuff, Rex? And you've been talking about this already.
Yeah, I know. And actually, this Variety article, when you really read into it, a lot of stuff kind of clarifies itself. All right. So clearly, all right, you know, I am a huge Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fan. I'm not going to lie. I love his movies. I love the character, but he's kind of like, I guess, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? No matter what role he plays, he's still The Rock, right? But we enjoy that. But he's had a lot of success of late. There's no doubt of that. All right. Obviously, you know, Missing Link, Hobbs and Shaw, and you know, the Fast and Furious franchise, and then his TV series, and then he had the HBO series. You know, he's had just, you know, continuous success. And needless to say, I think it got to his head a little bit. Okay. And with Black Adam, I think what ended up happening, a couple of interesting things came out of that article. Okay. So it makes total sense that he went over all of these executives and went to Zaslav. All right. He came in and started to push during a time when there was really a power vacuum at Warner, because the merger had happened. There was a transition. The Warner guys were leaving, and my opinion, and they turned to the CEO from the Discovery end, right? So yeah. I can totally see this. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, everybody's impressed by him. Walks in, knocks the door knocks on Zaslav's door and says, "Look, I got a great idea. This is what we need to do." Okay. At this point, the whole James Gunn, Peter Safran thing wasn't even really a blip on anybody's radar. Nobody saw that coming, right?
Yeah, sure.
And maybe Dwayne thought he could be the DC counterpart of Kevin Feige. I don't know. Okay. Maybe a different kind of Feige. Knocked on the door. My opinion of Zaslav. I think, he's not the right man for the job. And initially when he took the reins, he was sticking his nose in places it shouldn't have stuck at. And clearly, I think The Rock saw an opportunity there, knocked on the door. Zaslav thinks, oh, this is genius. Yeah, let's do this. Okay. Again, questioning why his response wasn't, thanks, Dwayne, I really appreciate it. Love to hang out with you. Maybe we can have dinner, but you really got to talk to the downline execs on this one, right?
Yeah.
That's not something within my realm. Okay. And I've been complaining since the beginning on how I feel like he should not be having press releases and things like that. And so with all that happening, the other thing I found very interesting about the article is I didn't realize that Cavill has an agent who turns out to be The Rock's ex-wife.
Yes.
Okay. Although they've parted ways.
He's no longer with that agency, but at the time they were both with the same agency. Yeah.
Right. So I find that an interesting little tidbit that I didn't know, which kind of explains why he's pushing so hard for Henry Cavill to resume the role of Superman. Then you take this into consideration with an article that I read maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Okay. Maybe longer than that, I don't remember, where somebody said that The Rock really didn't like Shazam at all. Okay. Thought it was goofy, it was childish, whatever. So he did not want his Black Adam character to kind of become part of that Shazam universe, right? He had envisioned a Superman battle, right? Yeah. And he was pushing for that. Unfortunately, that shows you that was just probably the final, I don't know what you want to call it, the final tick, if you will, in terms of the chaos that was the DC universe. And that so many voices, so many different directions. And now all of a sudden, of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson figures, I'm a huge star. I'm a huge box office draw. I'm going to throw my hat into that ring and try to influence the direction it's going in. And obviously, as soon as Gunn and Safran came on board, that whole thing changed to everybody's great surprise. Because otherwise, how does Henry Cavill end up in Black Adam?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it seemed that at some point, the initial stages of this were accepted, right? Because they did that whole announcement of Henry Cavill, his back, he's going to be Superman. He quits The Witcher. They're all set up, right? And then the James Gunn Safran stuff happens, right? So it's like, and you mentioned it earlier, and you're right on the money. This is during this power vacuum when, like, what was the dude's name? Was it Hamada or something like that? When, like, he was leaving?
Yeah.
And
those two guys leaving had already made the decision that Cavill wasn't going to return as Superman. All right. But obviously, I can imagine you're cleaning out your office, you're thinking about what you're going to do after all this happens. So you're not really, all right, whatever, Dwayne "The Rock" can do whatever the heck he wants. I don't care. Okay. Let me make sure my desk is cleaned out, whatever. So I could see that happening. But again, that's something I blame. I don't necessarily blame The Rock. I mean, but that's something I blamed on Zaslav, because to me, it seems like that's a hard U-turn right there.
Yeah.
Well, who can authorize a hard U-turn like that? You got 2 Warner executives that are exiting anyway. You say you want to find a Kevin Feige, but at that point you hadn't found him yet. And then Dwayne "The Rock," who I can see being a very persuasive guy, coming in and saying, "Look, this is the direction you should take," and maybe even sold it like, you know, you described it, you know, Black Adam's going to be the Iron Man and you know, of the DC universe, and you got to put that with the historic icon of Superman. And look, all the fans love, you know, Henry Cavill, and they want him back. And, you know, you'd be an idiot not to do this, right?
Yeah.
Then you hire James Gunn, you hire Peter Safran, and then all of a sudden everything takes another hard U-turn, okay? Because obviously Gunn has a vision in mind, and it doesn't include, you know, it doesn't include Henry Cavill. It doesn't include, obviously, now Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It doesn't include Wonder Woman and Gal Gadot, and you know, and now we're looking at what's happening with Aquaman and stuff. Now, I will say this: I give James Gunn this much credit. He is trying to stamp out the rumors. You know, he's trying to address them as they come up. So I think he had a response to this, saying that he didn't really address Ezra Miller, but he's like, I don't even know what they're talking to him about. You know, Batgirl, I know there was some mention of that. Who knows? Maybe we do finally see that. Who knows? I don't know. But clearly he's trying to stamp those things out. You know, the only thing he's been really clear about, obviously, and it didn't come from him, it actually came from The Rock, that Black Adam wasn't happening, Man of Steel wasn't happening, Wonder Woman's not happening. Okay, you know, Ezra Miller, I don't even know what you people are talking about, kind of thing. So he is trying to stamp that out, and I think it'll be helpful once he and Safran roll out the next 3 years of what their plans are. That will squelch a lot of stuff, all right? Because that'll be the first time that he's come out and said, all right, this is the direction we're moving in. Okay, this is how we're doing it. And that will just kind of stop all the, because that, you've heard me say it before, that has been the continuous problem with the DC universe, is that so many different directions, so many different voices, constantly changing, okay? You know, and it's not only not been helpful, it's done even more damage than if you just left alone. Okay, that movie, you know, Suicide Squad, okay, that was a loser. Let's move on. Okay. So you know, that's a lot of you know, a lot of stuff going on. So I think that's a good thing that's come out of this. But you know, I'm not surprised. I mean, when this came out, I really was not that surprised. And now, of course, there's rumors that Rock's going to flip over to Marvel, okay, which would be great. You know, again, I love The Rock. It's not anything against him. He saw an opportunity to try to step in.
Yeah, we love The Rock. We love Dwayne Johnson, and like y'all said in the chat, like, we ain't got to worry about him. He's gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna be fine. And you can't fault him, right? Like, when it's time to you got the opportunity to make that shot. Hey, I'm The Rock. I'm going to pitch this idea. And I'm sure that the reason why they brought in Henry Cavill, they brought him back for that little post-credit scene, is because they were like, okay, if this movie works, then let's do it. But the movie didn't hit their expectations. And I think that they were foreseeing that before the movie even dropped. You know, the movie studios, they have all these things that they can do to try to figure out how much the hype for something is, right? And I think they could see that the hype for Black Adam wasn't as strong as they wanted it to be. It has resulted in, it made money, but I think it made, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's around like what the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie made. And in today's standard, that's not really, you know, really good thing.
Well, actually, I think it's in line with what Shazam made. Somewhere in the 300 million range or something like that.
391.3. That's where we're at right now. We're just shy of 400 million.
There you go. All right. But the problem is,
Shazam, it's more than the first Shazam made. The first Shazam made 366. Right.
So isn't that interesting? You look at Shazam as a success, but you look at Black Adam as a failure.
Yeah. Okay? Meanwhile, Thor: Love and Thunder makes 760 million.
There you go. And we all universally pan that one. Okay. Yeah. You know, the damn screaming goats. But I think it's a matter of if yes, Missing Link, I was just getting that point. Shazam had a much smaller budget because there were no huge stars.
And there were reshoots on Black Adam that were like $40 million or something.
That's right. And I think something that and I don't know what Robert Downey Jr. made on Iron Man, okay? But at that point, his career was really on a downturn, okay? He really hadn't made anything for a really long time. So I don't know what his salary range was, but I can imagine that it was modest compared to obviously what he did with the subsequent movies, right?
Yeah.
After it became a success. So really, I think it all depends. If you really want to blame, all right, we can talk about the storyline we have, how it didn't work and everything like that. That's fine. I think you could say the same thing a little bit about Shazam. There were certain aspects of it didn't work, but overall it was a really enjoyable movie. But Zachary Levi was certainly no star. Okay. He was no box office push. So overall, it costs a lot less to make. All right. So if you want to blame the failure of Black Adam, unfortunately, if you're going to put The Rock in the movie, it's going to cost you a boatload of money. Okay. He's an established star. So therein lies your real problem. And so, and again, it was, you could tell all the rumors, how long it took to get released. Dwayne Johnson had a heavy influence on the direction of Shazam, which ultimately would have an overflow effect of influence on the entire DC universe. So you kind of look at it. Was it the right character? I don't know. And my theory, Iron Man was a different time. We had zero expectations. I just feel like everything they did there was right. You took a well-known name, Robert Downey Jr., but he hadn't really done anything in a really long time. Okay. His career was on a downturn. So you got a recognizable name, but he wasn't the world's biggest star. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, man, come on, bro. Okay. He's got young Rock on TV. He's got, his series, I forget the name of it, HBO. Endless movies. The guy was on an up trajectory. It was not going to be cheap to get The Rock. And was he really the only person that could play Black Adam? Seriously? Okay. And obviously the thought is, well, he's going to draw that crowd in, but he didn't, not to the extent they were hoping for. So I don't know.
Yeah. Now, if it was a success, I'm sure we would have gotten the Black Adam trilogy with ending culminating in the fight between that. But in the meantime, they hired James Gunn and all that stuff. Now, in this same article is, well, first of all, before we get to that, Spilio had a question. Now I got to try to find where it is.
Yes, it was. I remember the question. It was, should James Gunn release all the info at one time or take their time? I think that, so what I'm hearing is that, so there was another rumor that James Gunn squashed, right? They said, oh, well, he's only got a 3-year plan. And he says, no, we have an 8 to 10 year plan, but we're going to release the information about the next 3 years now.
Yeah, okay? Because they only have right now, even though they want a 8 to 10 year plan from them, they only have like a 4-year contract. And so basically it's phase one, right? That's what they're talking about, right? The first 3 years, it's a phase one thing. They don't want to call it that, obviously.
No, clearly they don't. But so we kind of squash that rumor, in my opinion. Okay, and thank you, Comics Joe Ballers. That's the show I'm thinking of. So in my opinion, you can't look at this in a vacuum, meaning that in the best case scenario, like a Marvel or whatever, you can just sort of piece it out, create its own interest. But the DCU has been such a hot mess that I think you almost have to release all that information at once, just to say, hey, there is a plan. There is a map. This is where we're trying to get to. Okay. And the movies are going to be good. Okay. In a sense, you can't do it the way Marvel did it. You have to do it differently because that time has passed. There are expectations. There have been way too many disappointments, too many, sharp changes in direction that what it really needs. And that's why I was so excited about James Gunn and Peter Safran coming on board, was I felt like this is what they needed. They needed somebody to take hold and say, all right, all you, it's like a kindergarten class during recess. All right, all you kids got to come get in line. All right, we're marching back into our classrooms. Enough of this. Stop screaming. Okay, let's go. And so you can't just piece it out, because as you can see, rumors are just flying. They've been flying for years.
Yeah.
So somebody needs to take control. So I think that to answer John Spilios' question, I believe that they kind of have to drop almost all the information at one time, or very close together. All right, to give fans something to say, okay, all right, this is interesting. This sounds good. And they're always going to be naysayers. I really like Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I liked Wonder Woman 1984. I know not a lot of people did. So I'm disappointed that she's not coming up. There isn't going to be a Wonder Woman 3, right? I am very disappointed in that. But I also realize that if James Gunn can't start, I think somebody, Mark McGrath, he needs a clean break, okay, from all that. And he's got enough of a reputation with the fans out there in this particular market through Guardians of the Galaxy, Peacemaker, all the other stuff, that we're all willing to bite the bullet and say, okay, let's see what happens. Okay. Let's give him a chance. So he does have that collective kind of goodwill. I think that he can get away with it.
I think they need to announce like the first like 2 to 3 years. Like, so maybe like, I don't know, probably, I think they're going to announce like 3 to 4 projects. Right. And I think obviously we're going to announce the Superman project. I think they might do the Marvel route where you find like a popular title, like, like Marvel did, Captain America Civil War. They're doing Secret Invasion. They take these events and these known titles and they utilize them for the MCU, Age of Ultron, Infinity War, stuff like that, Secret Wars. So they'll probably do something like that. You might get like Superman for all seasons or something like that, right?
Right.
Then they'll announce maybe a Batman movie, maybe who knows, maybe Green Lantern. Like, we'll get a few announcements, but what would really make it pop is if they had a really solid casting announcement for Superman. And I think that we're closer to that than some people realize, honestly. Because this whole time they're looking for Superman right now. I mean, they have been, right? So they may have already gotten him, right?
I don't disagree with that. Yeah, I think it may be sooner than we think. I agree with what Comic Joe's saying. So I'm not saying that they can't change direction. I mean, that's reality of life. It's like driving down a highway. If there's a big pothole in the middle lane, you're going to switch to the left lane. You have to deal with things as they come. But I think it's important for him to come out and just lay out this blueprint, okay? Because that's what is going to bring people back. They've made so many mistakes. I mean, just moronic stuff, okay? Like Suicide Squad. Let's make another one, okay? And let's throw a talking shark into that. I enjoyed that one better than the first one, but the problem was, at what point do you say, okay, let's just eat it? The movie didn't do well. Let's just move on. The Justice League, multiple releases. It's just, you feel like there's no direction, there's no nothing, and I think that's what everybody's looking for.
Yeah, and to answer Comics Joe's question, what comes first, Matt Reeves' Batman 2 or James Gunn's Batman? I agree with Steph. I think it would be Matt Reeves' Batman, but I don't know. I don't think that the first appearance of Batman in the James Gunn DCU will be a solo Batman movie necessarily. I think it may be in like a World's Finest movie or something like that, That
would actually be a much better plan, I think. I actually kind of like that idea a lot because, let's face it, Batman by himself, that movie has been made again and again and again and again. All right, we don't need another Batman. I don't need to see.
And it's literally being made again right now, right?
Yeah, I don't need to see the origin story again with yet another actor.
Hi guys.
Okay.
I just have to interrupt for like a hot second because I need our little iPad over here.
Okay.
But continue. Hi Robbie,
Sorry.
how are you?
I know she's got something to do today. Otherwise, that's why I forwarded you the email. I forgot you had that meeting, but because I thought this would be a topic that you should enjoy.
Oh, what am I missing? I'm sorry.
We're doing the latest DC rumor about The Rock trying to take over.
Oh, right. Oh,
yeah, but you got that. You got the meeting, but
yeah, sorry guys, I can't. Maybe
no worries.
Yeah, I know.
All right, let's get into the next juicy bit of this article. And what's crazy is the article is all about The Rock. That's the title of the article and everything. And right in there's this tiny little thing saying that certain Discovery Warner's what is it? Warner Brothers Discovery? Is that what it's called now? Or Discovery Warner Brothers? It's Warner Brothers Discovery,
Warner
right?
Discovery. I don't even know, dude.
Yeah, whatever they're called nowadays. Certain executives have said, since Ezra Miller, the star of the upcoming Flash movie, that we know DC has a lot of faith behind for some reason. Ezra Miller's had a lot of problems, but they have been in mental health rehabilitation. And you remember DC put down that ultimatum, basically. They're like, Ezra, you're going to stop all this foolishness. You're going to get some help and you're going to stay quiet. They brought their mom in, if you remember, Rex, right? They brought Ezra's mother in and Ezra's kept quiet. And so apparently certain studio execs say, and I think they're anticipating the idea of Flash being very successful, but that we would be open to keeping Ezra Miller as the Flash, to which the pop culture audience screamed, "What the hell are you thinking?" So what are your thoughts on this, obviously?
Let's look at this logically, all right? First of all, the movie still hasn't come out, okay? So when it comes out, we'll see how the audience takes it, all right? and they may enjoy the movie, whatever the case may be, but nobody's going to forget the Ezra Miller stuff. Now, you're James Gunn. Do you really want this headache? Do you really want to be answering questions about Ezra Miller and he went off the tangent? Because to be quite honest, okay, they've managed to sequester him, but I don't know what's going on, or obviously there's some deep-seated problems, but if you're a gambling man, you're thinking the odds of something else happening down the line is pretty high. Okay. Yeah. The fact that somebody actually from DC actually had to say, hey, if you don't get it under control, we're shelving the movie. Okay. And all this money that's coming to you is going to be bye-bye. All right. And it actually took that for Mom to get called in, big guns, and to sequester him. It took all of that. The millions and millions of dollars before, a kind of financial freedom did not convince him. Okay. It took that. So what are the odds it's going to happen again? If I'm James Gunn, I'm like, all right, we got to find a way to close that Flash loophole. Okay. Maybe you bring Golden Age Flash back. I don't know what you do, but you do something to close that up, because nothing good can happen. All right. And I think it's really just a rumor. And James Gunn kind of addressed it. He says, like, what are you guys talking about? I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
And the big thing to understand here is that James Gunn he's got one boss, and that's Zaslav, right? So any of these other executives, and we're talking about high up producing and executive roles, but that are very interchangeable. These people come and go when when the gears shift and change. So we're not talking about people that are like James Gunn's bosses or anything like that. We're just talking about people probably that have a stake in the success of this movie, people that are hoping that this movie breaks $1 billion. They're probably really trying to focus in on Michael Keaton being in the movie and his return. And all of the rumors, all the stuff swirling is that they are very, very positive minded about what this film's going to do and how good it is. And Andy Muschietti, who is the guy who did It Chapter 1 and 2, is the director of this film. It's over $200 million they've spent on it, and he's made them a lot of money with those It movies. They have a lot of faith behind this project. I don't think they have the faith in Ezra. But here's the thing, Rex, if this movie hits $1 billion, super popular, everybody loves Michael Keaton, the average American maybe doesn't even know who Ezra Miller is. You know what I'm saying? Like those of us that pay attention,
There's no way. No, right? There's no way. He was on national news for weeks, dude. I mean, it wasn't just the comic book or superhero movie genre and the fans that were reading it, dude. It was like lead story. You go to Yahoo or MSN or whatever. It was the lead story most
All right.
days.
Well, okay, you're right. But aside from that, let's say this movie is very successful and does what they wanted to do. Do you think that James? I mean, there's no way, because that would be so tone deaf, wouldn't it? Like, there's no way.
I don't think there's any. I'll tell you why I don't think there's any chance of that. Okay. They've spent all this money, and I can see James Gunn saying, okay, we're going to have to just do this because it is what it is. All right. It's more or less in the can. They've tested, quote unquote, they said it tested well, whatever the case may be. I don't necessarily agree with what Comic Joe's saying. I don't think it's a PR campaign, because it's a dead end PR campaign. Okay. All right. I mean, if you're a fan, you're going to watch this Flash movie. There's just been already too much talk about it. You're going to want to see it. Okay. Now that James Gunn's involved, you want to see how he's going to deal with it. But let me put it this way. I give James Gunn this much credit. The man's got some serious kahunas. Okay. And here's why. Say what you will about Wonder Woman, but you tanked that. Okay. You said, we're not moving forward with that. You're not moving forward with Jason Momoa's Aquaman, and we all agree we all enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
All right. You're not moving forward. You're going to maybe turn him into Loba, although there's no confirmation of that, but you're willing to scrap that as well. Okay. And these were popular characters in the DC universe. Okay. Something that you could build around, certainly, and he wants to start from scratch. Why in the world would you keep Ezra Miller?
I agree.
When
I heard this, it blew my mind. It blew my mind.
There's no way. There's no way you're doing that. I mean, the guy is it's just a walking disaster, and you don't want to have to deal with that. You got enough to deal with, right? So I don't see him. I don't see James Gunn doing that. I don't know what they're going to do. I haven't seen the movie. Nobody has. Do you somehow flip from that? Because you already got Michael Keaton in there, right? So you have multiple actors playing multiple versions of the same character, right? And so it's not going to be that hard, especially with the Flash. I mean, you got the multiverse kind of situation that you could play on. You've got Golden Age Flash that you could use. I mean, there's so many directions you can move with that.
Yeah.
So I just don't see him doing that. It's a headache that, hey, 62 lefty, what's up, buddy? I don't see him putting up with it.
When they find out who leaked that information, because
dude, I think somebody just they're just people make stuff up and they throw it out there. I mean, and let's keep in mind, who was it that told us that the Flash tested well?
Yeah, exactly. Those guys.
Zaslav again. Okay. So again, I just don't think.
And why do they have to assure everybody of how good this movie is? Because they canceled your beloved Batgirl movie in favor of this one in particular, right? And all the problems with Ezra Miller, and people are like, "Why are you?"
Well, keep in mind, all of this is pre-James Gunn, right?
Yeah, I mean, this Flash movie's been in the works for years, and maybe that's a problem too. Is both Black Adam and the Flash have been very long developing projects, and so when you have these new turnovers and new directions and new creators coming in, and you got these projects that take 8 years to develop, if not more, you get caught up in all kinds of it just in continuity, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, let's say this. Obviously, the pandemic didn't help, right? Kind of throwing everything into disarray for at least 2 years. But to me, all right. So we also mentioned the Batman movie. I think that's easily dealt with. The Batman and the Joker movies are easily dealt with as an independent universe that does not come into this. But I also think that may be a motivating factor for James Gunn anyway. All right. Like you say, your example of World's Finest, I think that's a good idea, or whatever the case may be, or he makes cameos, or he shows up, in other movies and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And maybe
or something like that, right?
Right, exactly. And I think that would work, but you don't need another Batman movie. I think that was one of the critical mistakes and a lesson they didn't learn from Marvel. And James Gunn is not that kind of guy anyway. You look at his history. What has he made work? Guardians of the Galaxy, Peacemaker. Those are the things. They are not the top tier kind of characters or IP. So, he's willing. He almost enjoys it. Let me take this relatively unknown, group of characters. Let me turn them into something. So why would he go with the Flash? Why would he go with Batman? Okay. Now Superman, I'm interested to see what he does with that. I really am.
Yeah, me too.
I think it should be interesting.
Yeah, really, really excited to see what he's going to do with Superman. Obviously, all of this stuff that was the big news this week with the Rock and Ezra Miller, that's all just kind of still digging in the past, because what it's once again showing me is how hungry for information everybody is about what's going on with DC Studios. So all of this is perfect setup, because bad publicity is still publicity, right? It's all set up for these first announcements. And if they hit us with a casting for Superman that makes people go, huh, they could win over a lot of people overnight pretty much. And this is all just set up for that moment. Or it could just all suck and tank, and we never get a great DC film ever again.
That would be horrible. That would be horrible. But Mark
eventually
McGrath,
they have to get Nolan back. 20 years from now, they could beg Christopher Nolan to come back, Christian Bale to do another Batman movie.
I agree with what Mark McGrath is saying. Yeah, obviously there are serious mental issues going on there, and I'm glad too if he is genuinely getting help. But obviously with so much money tied up in things, it's just, I don't know. Hopefully he's getting the kind of help that he really actually needs. But so cardstock variant.
Why is James Gunn a big deal? That Suicide Squad was Suicide Squad was decent for like a pandemic movie, didn't it? Do well, decent enough for that.
Yeah, I mean it was the second time they did it. I mean that format wasn't fantastic either. The way that they handled it, that one sucked, let's remake it. You've done that.
He also had success with he was the writer of those Scooby-Doo movies. I know that kind of helped launch.
Well, here's the thing. Here's my answer to cardstock variant. I wouldn't get into a debate as why James Gunn is the big deal. I'll say this: given the debacle that they've turned this into, He can't do any worse. It would be almost impossible with the kind of it's been a clown show for years. So there's really no way they can make that James Gunn can do worse. Okay. But I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because of what he did with Guardians, what he did with Peacemaker, Suicide Squad, the second one. I liked it. I just didn't like the premise of, we screwed that up. Let's make it again. Okay. I really didn't like that. You fail at something, move on. Okay. You can only fix it so many times. So I'm optimistic. I mean, this is the most optimistic I've been about what's coming up for DC Universe ever.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. Great. Yes, we got to go through all these negative articles, but The Rock's going to be fine. Hopefully Ezra Miller will be fine. Hopefully DC will be fine. I think James Gunn will be fine regardless. And more importantly is, and also, Dawn of the Dead. He wrote the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead. More importantly than that, he's been good for Warner Brothers when they've worked together in the past, but he obviously, along with Peter Safran, and Peter Safran has made a lot of money for Warner Brothers, especially because he was the producer of the Aquaman movie that hit $1 billion.
And Shazam
that says something, right? What's that?
He was producer on Shazam as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly, on Shazam. So their pitch is what made them important in the eyes of Zaslav to give them this job. So really excited for DC. Rex, what's coming up for you guys?
So tonight on The Experience, our YouTube channel, The Experience, Nick will be on at 7 p.m. for his original art show. Some great stuff as always. Some real neat stuff. And we have some great new cover sketches. I think one connecting cover, which is really neat. I believe it's The Thing and the Hulk. So tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern for that. Obviously, Robbie will be back with us on Monday. For our show on The Experience, and that's 6 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll be back on Wednesday with our buddy Alec over at AR Comics, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Absolutely. You can join me tomorrow night over at Dylan's Horror Show, where we're talking about Terrifier and Terrifier 2. And then the 2023 season of PCP Movie Night debuts on Monday night at 8 p.m. Central Time, where we're talking about John Carpenter's They Live. We're kicking it off with a bang in 2023. Thank you all for being here, joining the conversation. Let us know what you think in the comments if you're watching this on the replay. Rex, thank you as always for being here. I appreciate it.
Dude.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll have something else come out next week.
I know. I can't wait to see. It seems like 50% of these shows are going to be about DC movies this year. So we'll see what happens. Y'all have a good one.